Good evening and welcome to a regular meeting of the Oak Harbor City Council. It is the evening of December 1st, the first Tuesday in December at 6 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order and invite you to stand this evening and join us in an invocation led by Pastor Ron Lawler from the Family Bible Church. And after Pastor Lawler is done, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Lawler?
If you'd like to join me in prayer. Our Father in heaven, we come together tonight to address the needs, the plans, and goals to improve life in our wonderful city. I begin by thanking you for each woman and man who serve on the council, in our city government, and the first responders who protect and serve our city. Please grant to each person tonight clarity of thought and perspective as they collectively address the items on our agenda. Please grant peace and health to each member of this team who serve our city. I wish to ask for special graces for each person impacted by the pandemic. Guide our researchers to solutions as rapidly as possible under your blessing. And finally, grant to us as a nation healing attitudes. May those with a platform to speak to our nation bring a unifying and encouraging spirit. Thank you for your provisions and graces that we enjoy in our community. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Ron. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
United States,
and to the republic for which it stands, one
stands,
nation, under
one
God,
nation,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty and justice
with
for all.
liberty, justice for all.
So due to COVID-19, there is no physical meeting location per Washington Proclamation 20-28. Tonight's meeting may be viewed live via YouTube and replayed on cable channel 10. In addition, the public may call 623-404-9000 and enter the meeting ID, and that ID number is 149-766-1467 to listen to the meeting live, and this is for audio only. Council members and city staff are participating via teleconference. The staff sitting in council chambers are all physically distanced at least 6 feet apart and will be wearing masks when they are not speaking. As you may know, Governor Inslee has made updates to regulations in order to combat the resurgence of COVID-19. I want to thank the public, our city council, and our staff for working with us as we continue to follow these requirements. Please remember to wear masks and maintain physical distance in public spaces. And at this time, I'd like to ask our city clerk to please do a roll call. Julie?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Munns.
Present.
Councilmember Heisen.
Present.
Councilmember Servadius.
Present.
Councilmember Wassinger. Councilmember Wassinger.
She's muted, but I see her there.
Councilmember Wassinger, we can see that you are present, but your microphone is muted. Councilmember Wiesner.
Present.
Councilmember Mack.
Present.
Councilmember Goebel.
Present.
Councilmember Wassinger.
Present.
Mayor, your full council is present.
Thank you, Julie. Guests that are included in staff presentations this evening will be excused from the Ring Central meeting at the conclusion of the agenda item as appropriate. At this time, then, I'd like to move forward with approval of our agenda. Are there any changes or questions about our agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none, the agenda is approved as presented. We have no presentations this evening planned. So citizen comment period, citizens may comment on subjects of interest not listed on the agenda or items listed on the consent agenda. Public comment may be submitted electronically to the city clerk at jlindsay@oakharbor.org or by calling 360-279-4539 after 5 p.m. on the Friday preceding the meeting and prior to the meeting. To ensure comments are recorded properly, please state your name clearly when leaving a message. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And at this point in time, we have received no public comment for this meeting. Okay, that is correct. Then we'll move then to our consent agenda. It looks like we have items number A through G on the consent agenda. Does anyone any questions about that? If not, that consent agenda will be approved as presented. Okay, we'll move forward with that being approved. And I'll go to mayor's comments at this time. I've got a number of things here. Bear with me, please. CARES North Whidbey Island Small Business Relief Program update. The North Whidbey Island Small Business Relief Program closed on November 30. Staff will present a report on final numbers to City Council at an upcoming workshop. Thank you to the local businesses that participated. Island County, thank you, especially Budget Director Doug Martin and Commissioner Jill Johnson, and city staff Blaine Oborn, Tally Boyer, Jessica Dela Cruz, Sabrina Combs, Sandra Place, Lisa Felix, and Jay Lovelady for their hard work to complete this grant program on time. Use of CARES funds, I would like to congratulate staff on the completion of the Public Works Annex modular, especially project coordinator Sandra Place. Working with staff from engineering and public works, the building department, planning, finance, and the fire department. This project was completed on a very tight timeline of 7 weeks in order to modify staff working space to comply with new Washington Labor and Industries regulations related to COVID-19. Staff will present a report on the city's use of CARES funding at an upcoming workshop. Additional efforts to support local businesses. At their November 17 City Council meeting, the council asked that the city implement additional measures to assist local businesses. With Governor Inslee's latest orders regarding COVID-19, here are a few highlights of the work being done to assist our local business community. I sent a letter to the governor requesting his additional assistance. Staff continued working with the businesses that were awarded CARES grant funding through the North Whidbey Island Small Business Relief Program to complete their reimbursements by the deadline. Staff is fulfilling personal protective equipment requests from local businesses through funds from the CARES grant. Staff is creating a new program in partnership with the Greater Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce to assist local businesses with advertising during the pandemic, including creating a brand new website that will launch next week and preparing a mailer for the community. Look in your mailboxes at the beginning of December, the next few days. Staff is promoting the Home for the Holidays gift-giving guide that Whidbey and Camano Island Tourism created and funded through Island County CARES grant dollars that feature Whidbey-made products available for holiday gift-giving this season. I want to thank city staff, Greater Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce staff, and Councilmember Goebel for stepping up to create some quick solutions to provide additional assistance to our business community. Additionally, Economic Development of Island County announced a new grant program referred to as Round 3, Working Washington Small Business Grants from the Washington State Department of Commerce. The applications are for a maximum award of $20,000. The applications must be submitted online, and the application opens tomorrow, December 2nd. The grant is a first-come, first-serve application. The Department of Commerce website provides a checklist of items required to apply, and it is highly recommended that business owners prepare these items to allow them to apply as soon as the application is available tomorrow. This program is promoted on the city's website and Twitter pages. More details are also available on the website www.commerce.wa.gov/biz grants. Community response to COVID-19. On November 15th, Governor Inslee announced a 4-week statewide set of restrictions in response to the rapid spread of the COVID-19 virus. The reopening guidance for businesses can be found on the state's website dedicated to COVID-19, coronavirus.wa.gov. It will be especially important to be mindful of your family's health with the approaching holiday season. Oak Harbor Public Schools has started planning to move the pre-K through 6th grade hybrid classes back to distance learning starting on Monday, November 14. Families are urged to plan accordingly. At this time, city facilities remain open, but we would like to remind the community of our many options to conduct business and connect with staff virtually. Electronic bill pay, virtual development application meetings, virtual boards and commissions meetings, and an online comment portal are just a few of the ways we have adapted to meet the needs of the community during this pandemic. More details and resources about the local impact of COVID-19 can be found on our website, www.oakharbor.org/COVID-19. And then finally, the Coochie Park play equipment. A few weeks ago, the Public Works Department asked for comments about the new playground equipment at Tie House Park. Feedback from the community mentioned adding a bench to the park, and the park's staff was able to incorporate this feature into the park. I appreciate the community taking the time to tell us about their preferences for projects like this. Now we are asking the public to provide feedback on the Coochie Park play equipment. There are pictures and details on how to comment on the city website at www.oakharbor.org/Coochie Park Playground. Or starting tomorrow, December 2nd, signs will go up in the park with images of the potential play equipment and details for how to comment. Please let us know your thinking. We appreciate that very much. So with that, I'll move on then at this time to council members for comment. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the community for supporting Help House. They fed 888 people, the best count that they could get, people picking up the food baskets. Just before Thanksgiving, they did an interview. They were interviewed by King 5 about what's going on in our town and what the need was. And if anyone is interested, they could use pumpkin pie mix, evaporated milk, pasta, and oatmeal that they put into the food baskets. So, and the other comment is due to activities of the holidays and things, I will postpone the release of the survey until after the first year. So I'm sorry for that inconvenience. It just how it's working out for me at this time. Thank you.
Councilor Servadius.
Thank you, Mayor. Great to see everyone. Hopefully everyone had a great Thanksgiving break. Hey, just a quick blip. I received an email and had a conversation with Nicole Tesh. She is co-chair of the Citizens for Better School organization that traditionally has worked on the school levies. And I think she's co-chair with our own Millie Goebel. and reached out wanting to see if the city would have any interest in putting together a resolution. I know that we've done that in the past. I actually went back, I was trying to find, I found one in, from when I first came on council in 2012, 1226, resolution 1226. I'm assuming we did one in 2016. I couldn't find it on our website. So Sabrina, that's something I'll catch up with you about. But just wanted to put a bug in everyone's ear. It's something that I would support. I don't know if we've had conversation with Citizens for Better School, but Nicole Tesh would be a great point of contact for that. I know that they're looking to put together that levy the first part of next year. And it's, as I understand it, it's a replacement levy for the one that they currently have in place. So please, staff, if you would reach out with them, and obviously council members can decide if that's something they want to support, but I think we have traditionally done that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Servadius. Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to sure tell Councilmember Servadius' comments. Being a product of Oak Harbor Schools and being a product of the years of Oak Harbor Schools when we didn't have levies that passed and we didn't have hot lunch and we didn't have sports and we didn't have a lot of things. In fact, my junior high was 5 periods a day. We were done by 12:30. We were doing the bare minimum to get by with the state. And if it wasn't for a bunch of parents that got together and contributed, the football program would have been totally gone and dead. They were able to keep that alive, but none of the rest of the sports in schools. So my understanding is it's a replacement levy replacing the existing levy at the same rate. So I see I'm getting a nod from Millie, but yeah, so I just wanted to remind everybody of the way it used to be. And certainly I'd put my support behind that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other city council comments? Councilor Goebel.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just to echo what Councilor Servadius and Councilor Wiesner said, I am co-chairing, so I obviously am definitely in support of this and would like to see a resolution happen. The levy is a replacement levy, so it's not increasing any existing taxes. It's to maintain all the services that the school district currently offers. And I think it's really important for everyone to think about how important those services will be when students do come back to school in a regular session, especially with counseling and athletics and food assistance and all the things the levy pays for. I feel very strongly that this needs to be supported by the city and in turn, hopefully by our community. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Wassinger. Councilor Wassinger?
Yes, I certainly would be a resolution that I would support, supporting Citizens for Better Schools and our levy renewal. Jim, you didn't mention buckets in the hallways catching rainwater. My husband likes to talk about that from when he was in school. So it definitely is super important for our students and our teachers and our school buildings and maintaining all of the great opportunities that our schools, that's my biggest support is the opportunities that are given to our students that even when I was in school, I couldn't even imagine having access to. So super important, and I will support that 100%. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Wassinger. Any other council comments? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll move to city administrator comments.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate the direction there on the resolution supporting the school district, and staff will put that on our to-do list on our meeting tomorrow. And then also, as we wrap up the budget process, I just want to put a thanks out to all the team effort with staff in putting the budget together, and you'll see some more work today in doing some of the adjustments and house cleaning that needed to go into it. Quite a project, I kind of like the idea that it's every 2 years with a biennial budget, kind of gives us a year off, but certainly really a team effort and a lot of behind-the-scene effort went into this budget process, and just appreciate everybody's effort in contributing to that process and providing good information to the council. Thank you.
Okay, then we will move on our agenda to public hearings and meetings. To speak during a scheduled public hearing or meeting, please note the instructions for submitting public comment that I made earlier in this agenda. State your name clearly, and I don't think we've received any outside comment.
No, Mayor, we did not. We did publish a legal notice for this hearing in the Whidbey News-Times. Those wishing to comment on this item could do so electronically via the city website comment form or by email or voicemail to the city clerk, and no comments were received.
Thank you, Julie. So at this time, I will open the public meeting on ordinance number 1917. We have, as Julie just mentioned, we will then move forward with the presentation, and I think this evening we have our City Finance Director, David Goldman. David?
Yeah, unmute and video. So this is the 2021-2022 biennial budget overview. I added 2 slides to the presentation that we put together on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, just to provide kind of all the different funds in context of the entire budget. This slide shows all funds over the 2-year biennial budget, 21 and 22 biennial budget. You can see that 52% of all the funds is comprised of the enterprise funds, which is our utility funds and a marina. 18% is comprised of the general funds, which includes the general fund, the stabilization fund, general fund capital, concessions, and a few other smaller funds. 16% are the internal service funds, such as IT and fleet. 9% are the special revenue funds, such as senior services and streets, and 5% is our capital project funds. Let's see. So general funds, I broke down the general fund into 4 major categories: public safety, general administration, general services, and non-departmental. The largest piece of the general fund over the 2 years is public safety, and that's comprised, and you could look in the chart to the right over here, that's comprised of police at 12.7 million, fire and emergency services at 5.5, and judicial at about $800,000. General administration is the next largest category at 17%, and that includes the mayor, city administration, city council, law, finance and utility billing, and human resources. The next category are general services such as parks, development services, and library. And then the last category is non-departmental, which is the budgeted fund balance and general government type expenses like insurance and so on. So I'm going to go over the budget adjustments that we talked about earlier and some new things that we were able to find over the past 2 weeks to reduce the budget. So these are the budget reductions from the last meeting we had, the last council meeting we had on November 17th. So we have city council, judicial, mayor, and so on. The next page has general government. It was decided by council not to reduce the Main Street donation, so that was taken out. So the Main Street donation will stay in. And also, there was concern about police and fire equipment. So we removed this reduction to police equipment. And of course, the total changed as well. And we'll go over what the end result total is once I finish the slides on all the changes. So these are budget increases that were discussed at the last meeting. We talked about adding the GIS tech and the design engineering check into Fund 510, the shop facility fund. There's also a reduction to an administrative position, which is why in 21, there's not much of a change. But in 22, the change is much larger because that's the year at the second position here, the design engineering check will start. The street specialist, it turns out that the fourth position that everybody was saying that we should be filling, it's already included in the mayor's budget. So there's no need to adjust the budget for that. That was something that we were able to find earlier this week. So that does not need to happen for the streets fund because the vacant fourth streets position is already was in the mayor's budget to begin with. The next area is the Gov QA software. That was discussed too for the legal department. And the last one is debt service for lighting. That's in the senior center. That was an oversight that we discussed a couple weeks ago. So we found some new savings in the general fund, actually all funds. We outlined them here. There was a small adjustment here, just a balancing adjustment for the indirect cost allocation. The mayor was able to find $4,000 in travel. He was able to reduce in 21. The administration department was able to find $3,000 in travel in 22. General government, there was reductions in professional services, insurance, miscellaneous costs, some professional services as well. And this line here where it says transfer out, that's the transfer out subsidy that goes to the senior center fund. And you can see down here it matches. The transfer in matches that. So that's about a 2% reduction in the $200,000 or so that gets transferred every year. And then repair and maintenance in police. This is dealing with some landscaping that was found not to be needed in 21. So that's a small amount there. The next item is just a balancing amount. This item too, $33 is another balancing amount. This $24,000, it turns out that there's a transfer every year that comes from the water fund over to the Fund 411, which is the water reserve fund. And the transfer out was budgeted, but for some reason the transfer in to the water reserve fund wasn't budgeted. So this is just a housekeeping item to balance the budget.
David, yeah, now you're on that slide
So
you just talked about.
these are some new budget increases, which I just talked about a little earlier. That's that $24,000 we talked about, and the $33 we talked about in the previous slide. These are some interfund adjustments that we received from Public Works from the internal service funds. The $33 is what we found as far as balancing goes. But the other items were, there was a lot of transfers between this and that, but you can see here where it says net total for the council's budget that we're presenting tonight, it all nets out to zero. So there's really no change in the budget. And this really affected just interfund contributions for facilities, software, and vehicles. So there's some capital adjustments for all funds. The first one is for the active transportation plan. You can see that the way it works is between the transfers, it starts off where the revenue source is, where it says step one. So you can see that $7,250 is transferred out of the arterial fund, and that money goes into the arterial capital projects fund. And the same thing happens with the path and trails fund. 13,000 is transferred out, and that goes in over here in the arterial capital projects fund. And that money is needed to match a grant of about $130,000. And that goes to balance out with this expenditure over here for the active transportation plan. The next item is the annual streets improvements. $300,000 is being transferred out of the arterials fund into the streets fund for the annual street improvements. Now the Leboy paver, it's $120,000, but $50,000 was found in 21 that was not needed for a piece of equipment. So really only $70,000 is needed in that fund in order to fund that Leboy paver. Some of these this one's a little confusing because they hit the same line, so I'll try to go over these in detail. The first one is just for the Marina Boatyard. This is $75,000. Partially fund balance is used for this, and that's for the boatyard in 21. And remember, expenditures are showed negative if they're going up, and they're showed positive if they're going down. This line here where it says $12,500, $25,000 was here, but it's being for the sewage, for the sewage project. That's being moved out to 22. So this went down by 25,000, but 37.5 is being put in for the boatyard. So if it's going up by 37.5, and it's being subtracted by 25,000, which is moved to year 2 for a net of 12.5. And like we said before, expenditures are showed negative if they're going up. The next item is the 75,000 here is for the sewage project. That's being moved to the year 2022. And this is a grant revenue, so it's shown positive if it's going up. And when this 75,000 went here, it showed negative 75,000 here, but then we're adding 37.5 for Marina Boatyard grant. So with 75,000 negative going here and adding positive 37.5, the balance remaining is negative 37.5. And then you have a transfer in here, which balances out with this line with the transfer out. And over here is the sewage project. The expenditure is going down by 100,000 here in 21. It's being moved to 2022. That's why it's showing $100,000 in 22. And then the security cameras for the marina. That's a project that they just weren't able to do in 2020. So they're asking to do it in 2021, and that'll be the use of the marina fund balance, which there's sufficient fund balance to fund this. So the overall picture of all these changes, the overall impact to the general fund, this slide is similar to what we went over last time. And we have the 19 actual, then we have the unreserved fund balance, then we have the amended budget, which shows a use of 1.256 million to bring us down to 2.6. But based on our projections, it looks like we're only going to use about 457,000, so that this number now gets a little bit better. It goes to 3.4 as opposed to 2.6. And then we have the proposed budget for 21 and 22. Before tonight, this is the budget from 2 weeks ago. You can see that the fund balance was going to go down to 1.9, but after all the cuts that we've done over the last month, after all is said and done, we're not going to use as much fund balance in 21, 22. So, and here's the actual amount of the net amount of the reductions. So that ends up giving us a number at the end of 22 of 2.531 unreserved fund balance, which is kind of close to the budgeted amount for the end of 2020. So that just shows you kind of the effect of all the reductions and changes that occurred to the budget since the mayor's budget was presented. So here's the options that we had talked about earlier that are no longer being considered. This is for the fire department, adding money to replace fire trucks and an aerial ladder in the future. That'll be something we'll discuss next month at a workshop about how to fund these very large expenses. And this extrication tool, $80,000, that's tied into a grant. And if we get the grant, we'll come back and do a budget adjustment to add this expense for the extrication tool. The next item is for the administration department, is for the economic development specialist. That's no longer being considered. These are some general government options like I talked about before. There's no cut to the Main Street donation, and there was a proposal to give an additional $11,000 per year to the Homeless Coalition, but we're currently giving, $50,000 worth of capital and $9,000 to the Homeless Coalition. So that's a total of $59,000. So it was discussed that, we don't need to give an additional $11,000 at this time because we're already giving, close to $60,000. And then this water option, we're not eliminating the vacant water specialist. It was decided to keep the vacant water specialist in the budget. So we're not eliminating it. It's a little confusing with all the negatives, but it's not being eliminated. So these are some outstanding options that we have based on the last meeting for action. So there was some discussion about the parks specialist. So I don't know if the council wants to discuss whether or not to keep it in or take it out, but we can stop on each one of these slides and we can have a little bit of council discussion to debate, these items, if that's the will of the council.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Coleman, I have a question. I've been really nervous from the beginning about using the carryover fund balance. In other words, you true up the year, you have an ending fund balance, and then next year, you kind of start with a cushion. And I can see using some of it, but it appears that we're spending it down still. We've made adjustments, so it's better. But back with one of our finance directors, best practice, the GFOA policy is you need to have at least 2 months expenses as a cushion for these different departments at 16.67% of whatever their budget is for, to stay in kind of a reserve that you can use if needed. And are we doing that or not with this budget and with the ending, the 2,531,704, which is up? So where are we on that?
Okay, we do have that reserve. It's built into your fund balance policies. I'm sorry, your reserve policies. This number here, I don't know if you could see the pointer. Maybe I could try to make.
Okay, I could see it. It moves around a little bit.
Well, I want to use a different color. Maybe there's like a better. I got a red one now. So
Perfect.
So yeah, this number here, you see, it says reserves, and there's all these different reserves that are built into the fund balance. The operating policy, and this is in every fund, it's required to be 2 months or 16.67%. And this is that amount. So like if you look at the total fund balance with everything, it's 8.8 million, and it's broken down with this, with this, with this, with this, and so on. This one's the 16.67%. And then when you get to this number, this is just the extra. This is unreserved. This is fund balance that's not in any reserve. It's above and beyond that requirement.
Okay, because I just know occasionally WASDOT will decide to change something and we've got to move a pipe and it was not planned at all, and we don't have 2 years or a whole year to plan for that in our budget. And so I just want to be sure that we're still doing our best practices as far as the GFOA policy goes. So thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions or any questions specifically on this action item, this parks?
Councilor Wassinger.
Oh, thank you. Let me start my video and unmute there. Can you go back real quick to the one? And I just want to make sure
I'm having trouble hearing.
I'm reading. Was it added back in or taken out? The slide, a couple slides back where you 11,000 for the homeless coalition, that slide.
Oh yeah, right there. Yep.
Right there. Okay.
We're having a problem. Councilor
I'm having a lot
Wassinger.
of trouble hearing, but I'll just talk.
I'm showing it. So can you hear me now better?
Oh yeah, much better. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. It may have just been the way I had my microphone here. So we're taking the Main Street donation of the 23,750. We're not going to do that.
No, we're not going to cut it. It's going to stay in the budget.
Okay, so Main Street will stay in
Sorry,
the budget.
Confusing with the negatives and the positive. I'm sorry. Basically, the Main Street donation will stay in the budget.
Okay.
But the next line, the Homeless Coalition, the 11,000 extra on top of the 59,000 won't go in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if that's, yeah,
Okay, now go, okay, yep, I got that one. Wait, now go back one slide though. Okay, I see they all are like that. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Sure.
I'm good for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watzinger. We have Councillor Heisen. Councillor Heisen?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Goldman, are you at the end of the options? You mentioned we could go through them one at a time or just go through them. It would be my personal preference to get through the options before we start discussing them.
Sure, I can go through them all. I could do it real quick in the
Okay.
next minute or so. So,
I'm just chiming in that would be my preference. I don't know how my peers feel about it, but I'd like to see the whole picture before we start picking it apart. That's
I'll
all.
wait for
Thank
you.
you. Thanks.
So we do have one more hand up. At this point, could we call on Councillor Servadius before we?
Thank you. I'll just second Councilmember Heisen. I have several questions, but I'll need to get those kind of answered and have a better overall picture before I chime in on each one of these. So I agree with Councilmember Heisen.
Okay, back to
Okay.
you, Dave.
yes, sir. So this is the parks position. This is the new permitting software. There might be some options that David Cool can go over regarding the new permitting software. This is the streets fund. This is, it turns out that this truck's already in the capital plan for 23, so there's really no reason to have it for 21. It was just an oversight that, we put this in as an option. And then this is the city council budget. There was some talk about reducing travel from various council members, but we weren't really sure exactly who was saying what or if they still agreed with it. And some council members didn't mention it. So, before me as staff reduce a council member's budget, I just would rather, be certain and get some confirmation tonight regarding what you would like to reduce out of 21 and 22. There's that. And I zoomed in case this is hard to read. I kind of cut out the personnel and the interfund and I zoomed in on just those middle items. And here's the COLA options again. And that was it.
Okay, so we'll go back to council for questions. Councillor Wassinger.
Thank you. So the budget that's in our packet for tonight that I went through that sort of goes line by line through the different departments. So, but it wasn't like, down to specifics, softwares and this and that. So did that budget, it had the council budget 21, 22. Did that include these items that we're discussing or not at all? Some of them or what? I'm a little bit confused because I know.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, go ahead. Before I get.
Well, this is the current state of the budget where it says 21 and 22 council. This is with reductions. You see how this says $3,900 in 21 for miscellaneous. This is normally $6,000. Like it was budgeted at $6,000 in 19. It actually came in at $1,200. It's budgeted at $6,000 in 2020. It's coming in below $2,000 this year. So during the budget process, $2,100 was cut out of the original budget to get this number down to $3,900, and then 22 it goes back up to $6,000. So this already includes everything I talked about before, all the reductions and additions. This already includes that. Like you'll see here, the DC trips down to 4,500. Normally is 9,000.
Okay. And then for things like the software. So when I look at the packet and go to, the different departments, development services, is the software cost included in some of those line items? Or-
Yeah, all right, so if you're talking about development services in that particular $100,000 option, that's not included in the budget, that's for decision and discussion tonight. But other software it's all funded in the IT internal service fund, and and costs get allocated out to the various departments depending on the usage. For example,
Yeah.
we have Microsoft Office and Microsoft Windows, and there's a cost to that every year, and it gets allocated out depending on the number of licenses each department has, for example.
Okay, so basically, if we as a council, I'm not saying that we will or won't, you're saying these options that you gave us, like the park specialist, the software, any changes we want to make to travel, that would change the budget in our packet, and it would probably reduce beginning fund balance. It would just come straight out of that, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's what would generally happen. If you reduced an expense, you wouldn't need to use as much of that. Here, I'll give you an example. So let's say in 21, travel was reduced by, I don't know, $1,000. Then we wouldn't need to use $1,000 here. This would actually go to the better by 1,000.
Yeah.
This would be reduced. So yeah.
Of course. But if we wanted to say add the park specialist, I'm just throwing it out there, that would obviously go against the general fund, and we would have to use our unrestricted, unreserved fund balance. Same
Correct.
with the, anytime we're going to increase a department's, line item for an expenditure. So basically, we have to think about priority of this unrestricted. I say unrestricted because it's not restricted in our policies, correct?
Yeah, I just call it it's a geographical terminology, but the same thing.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have for now. But those are the things that you're still wanting clarification on: the park specialist, the software.
Not this. This one.
City
And-
council travel.
Yeah, this is just a zoom in of that last slide, and then this too.
What's this one? Oh, COLA. So
Oh.
okay, so just council travel and COLA for right now is what you're asking for?
Council travel and COLA, and the permitting software, and the park specialist.
Okay, so none of so those are all still on the table.
Yep, those are the action items. And if there's anything else the council has too, that obviously on the table as well.
Is not on, is not included. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just go really, really quick since I'm already up, I guess, and talking. I'll start with the hard one, I guess. For COLA. So that COLA is for non-represented employees.
Oh, this is for everybody. About 2/3 of this cost is non-represented, but this is for like everybody.
Because I thought for the represented, we just did some work so that we could retroactively go back and add COLAs. Can you sort of explain how that plays into the?
Yeah, there was something that was brought. I believe Human Resources brought this resolution back before I started. That said that the council will, they'll see how the budget's going. They'll see how revenues are going, and just see how the finances for the city are going next year. And if things have improved and there's sufficient funding for a COLA, then they can retroactively to January 1st approve a COLA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm paraphrasing it. I'm sure I missed a few pieces.
No. I think that sounds correct. So I agree with that because it's such a strange time and such a hard time, and not really knowing what the impact of this time is with COVID. our revenue streams. You know, I would, is there something we can do for our non-represented employees that we could do the same thing? A big thing with us, and I know my fellow council members have echoed this in the past when we've done wage studies and getting things market corrections with salaries and benefits, that I'd like to treat all of our employees fairly and do the same program, you know, for the non-represented as the represented. So, you know, I'm hesitant to jump into a COLA right now in this budget, but I would support if it works out that we do have the ability to add in a COLA. You know, I'd love to hear what everybody else thinks and if that's a possibility and how that would look. Those are my 2 cents on the COLA part. And then, and also on the same COLA thing. So when I go through the departments on the budget that was sent, you know, I see that, like, for example, city council right now, the way it's listed for like 21 to 22, like we're not getting a COLA. The mayor's not getting an increase at all, if I'm reading it correctly.
Correct.
But then I see some salaried and some departments line items.
Oh.
It looks like the salaries are jumping up. Are those just step ups in the contracts or in the new system, or are those COLAs?
Those are step ups.
Okay, so there's no COLAs. That right now there's no COLA
No COLA.
in the line items in the budget.
Correct. No COLAs, just step ups.
Okay, and then could you also explain why? Oh, it's probably part of the same step ups, because I noticed, like, in the fire and police department, because I wanted to make sure that all the departments were kind of on the same page, that some of the salaried, and I don't know the difference between all the account numbers. Some of the line salary items jumped up some and some didn't. Is that just part of that step up as well?
Hey, David, this is Chief Resker. Would you mind if I speak to that real quick?
Right ahead.
Hey, Chief.
Yeah, Erica, just to clarify that a little bit for you. So at least with the police, and I'm guessing it's with the others, but some of the salary increases are step increases, which occur. Some of the increases are, like, for police, we have percentage that we bargained in back when we did negotiations before for, like, HRAT and detectives that just now are reaching 3%, and that's the max for them. So there's been increases because of some of that, and then there's some longevity issues and stuff like that. And then I'll just say real quick about COLAs too. What did pass and what you guys voted on was that next year you reserve the right to go back for non-represented people and apply a COLA to them. But the way I think that works is that's depending upon whatever COLA is negotiated, because the COLAs you can look at the COLA amounts and say, here's what we think we'd like to do. But the COLAs in actuality have to be negotiated to an extent with all the negotiating units.
Yeah.
You know, Teamsters, police, fire, and all that stuff. But that's kind of how that worked. And what you're seeing with the increases in some of the pay stuff are percentage increases for steps and some other things, not COLA increases, just to let you know.
Hi, this is Grant. If I could add to that, please. The resolution that the council had passed earlier allows for a retroactive increase, but it made it clear that it was subject to having available revenues, so you could wait to see how you're doing revenue-wise in the first or second quarter of 2021 before you actually make the decision to allow for a retroactive COLA of any size.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, that's sort of what I would like to stick with at this point, is what we have, and then take a look at it again. I think you're right. I think first, second quarter, would be appropriate. That's my thinking on the COLA. That's my preference. And then could you go back to the park specialist slide so I could see? So the park specialist is about 63 to 65 for a total of 129. Yeah, you know, that's it. And then, okay, let me write that down. And then the software, what was the software? $100,000. Okay. Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you so much. I might circle back, but I want to listen to everybody else too. Thank you.
I should have said just step ups and other non-COLA items, but sorry about that.
Okay. Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go to Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. And David, thank you. The first part of your presentation regarding, I think what you understood that we think what we wanted, I think you did a really good job on. I think you nailed the items that we have removed from the budget, and I appreciate everybody for digging in a little bit more. I know I've been kind of hounding the city administrator that we need to dig, and we need to especially dig into the administration side and make sure that we're feeling the crunch. So I appreciate all of that. And so I'm going to stick with my comments to the last few slides, which are the items you're looking for additional direction on. First off, the permitting software, I think this is the biggest no-brainer. I think a technology fee being charged to the folks on the development community, I think they'd be happy to pay it. I'm not a developer, so I don't speak for them, but I just got to be thinking it common sense. If it would give them better tracking, and I've seen how this stuff is tracked in other towns where I'm able to go online and I'm able to see exactly where my permit is in the process, who's got it, all of that type of stuff. It makes the projects go so much smoother. I would think that they'd be willing to pay that through a technology fee. So it's just a matter now of figuring out how we fund it to be able to get reimbursed through the technology fee charge. Okay, but I see that as something we need to do. Would you go to this parks? Since you're on that one, I would like to hear, I guess, a little bit more about the position. I know, we've probably heard it before, but this one, I guess I need to understand a little bit more. What's the position going to do for us that we don't have now? And I see Kathy coming on, and I'm sure she's got an answer.
Okay, thank you. So just a little bit of background. In 2010, we had one additional position than we currently have now. Because of the recession, we had to reduce the park staff in the 2011-12 budget. And so what has happened is the parks continue to grow. We continue to get more parks. And the staff it's difficult for them to maintain the same level of service that we had in 2010 when we had one additional staff person. We now have the reinvented Windjammer Park, and we're having to take over all the maintenance of that now. We do contract out the weeding of the planter areas, but there are many things that the park staff just cannot get to, and they have not been able to maintain that level of service for the past 10 years since we lost that position. And every budget since that time, we have asked to regain that position. And so we're asking again this year. It's just that the parks keep growing. The special events in the parks keep growing, the number. Of course, this year we didn't have any, but with Windjammer, we're expecting the number of special events in Windjammer when things stabilize regarding the pandemic and people start holding special events. That takes a lot of staff time. as well as we've got 75 acres now additional that we're starting to prepare the plans for phase 1, but that's going to require some additional work as well. So the staff that we have can barely keep up with our growing parks, and we're looking to maintain the level of service that we've had, or at least be able to better manage expectations. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Kathy. I guess I'll probably circle back around to it, but my general thought of, all of the areas where we need to add additional personnel, which is an ongoing cost, right? I mean, if it's important to protect the jobs once we create them, because nobody likes being the folks that can't keep people around, right? And so I guess the concern I have here is it seems to me as though that's the area where the summer laborers and the temporary laborers and stuff, if we could maybe pull some of that off of our experienced personnel, have the experienced personnel concentrate more on the things that require the experience, and having the seasonal laborers be spending more time on the maintenance things. But again, I guess I'll circle back around to that. But that's my general thought there. That's an area where if we're needing some additional personnel when it comes to the peak season, we have the ability through adding budget amendments or something for additional seasonal laborers, which wouldn't have the benefits, rather than taking on this long-term commitment of another staff member. So just because, of course, the uncertain times. So that's my general thoughts there. On the council travel, could you bring that slide up, please, David? So first off, what I'd like to actually see is maybe a little history on this. I'll give you a little bit of my thought and my guidance, but I'd like to see a little bit more history as far as 2014 actual, 2015 actual, 16 actual, maybe a few years of actuals. 2019 is going to be a tough year to judge by. These numbers aren't correct either, by the way. I didn't have any out-of-state travel in 2019. I know Councilmember Goebel's up there because she slid into Councilmember Larson's spot, I'm assuming. Or I take that back. We're on 2020. I've got this backwards. I did have out-of-state travel in 2019, and that's where she slid into Councilmember Larson's. But I'd like to see, you got the rest of that history, 2018, 2017. Was that what you were about to bring up? Because it seems to me like we have this particular area like over budgeted.
Let me pull that up. Which one is this? It might take a few minutes. I got to go.
Okay. Well, so I guess my guidance here is I'd like to see that tightened up. Yes, to have nothing else closer to some of the actuals. I think that's over budgeted. I'm not going to even think about speaking for the rest of the council, but I know myself, I'm willing to tighten my belt there, personally. I think we certainly can come up with a budget that's closer, and that could be money that obviously could be freed up for some of these other things we're talking about. So that's my thought there. When it comes to the council travel side of things, as well as the miscellaneous, I think, what was it? The $6,000 in there. I think that's a little bit of an inflated number. So
I have the numbers on this screen. Oh, it takes a while. Okay, so going back, it's the name of the account is T. Eisen, but obviously there may have been a different council member in the past. So I have history to 2007 for each one of these accounts. And for this particular account, it bounces around. In 2007, it was $40. Then it was $940, then $1,500, then $741, then $0, then $1,100, $1,000.
That's just an individual travel account.
Yes.
And I'm talking about the overall.
Yeah.
The overall budget, right? For look, what I'm saying is I think our travel has been far below the amount that's been budgeted. And I think historically it has been that way. And maybe we can tighten that up to match a little bit more of the historical reference points that we've got, rather than continue with the number that's a little bit inflated.
Got it.
Okay. And then you had another item in there besides the COLA item in your
right.
last few slides.
That was really it. I added this slide to kind of zoom in on this.
Okay.
That's
So I guess my thought on the COLA is I agree with Councilmember Wassinger. I think we enacted that legislation understanding that we really have an uncertain future, right? And COLAs, the COLAs aren't really a retroactive. They're actually a forward-thinking tool to make sure that we're staying up with the cost of living. And when we look at the COLA that we issued through the last contract, the amount that was given ended up far exceeding the actual cost of living, the inflationary measures, right? And so the reality is, right now we're a little bit ahead of the curve with the staffs, and we established some of those wages back when we did a study, and we're constantly looking and comparing to other cities so that we're making sure that we're competitive. But right now, those COLAs were actually ahead of the game. Those COLAs were more than what the inflationary was. This year looks like we're going to have an inflationary of about 0.6, maybe 0.65. And depending on what's going to happen here over the next few months, we're probably going to get a better feel for whether inflation is going to kick in 2021. It's certainly something that seems like the federal government's really focused on and trying to prevent from happening. But obviously, that is going to come into play, some of those things and some of those signals of what's going on there, along with we're going to have a lot better handle on our budget. We're going to have our true ups done. We're going to have our third and fourth quarter sales tax revenues back, which is going to show us whether or not the trends are continuing on that side of things. And then obviously those are going to be taken into consideration with the negotiations with representative partners, right? And I'd much better have all that information and be able to come back and make an adjustment if that's what comes out of those discussions, rather than making a adjustment that's based on not enough information. So that's where I'm at on the COLAs.
Thank you, Councillor.
I think that was it. I think that's the question you asked.
Yes, that's the question.
All right, thank you.
So we'll go now to Councillor Servadius.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have some just general questions, and I'll get to your question, Mr. Goldman. If we could, can we go to I'm looking at page 109 in our packet.
109.
And first of all, thank you, everyone, staff, for the work that went into this. It's a ton of work, I know. I must say, the parentheses really threw me on whether it's a negative or reduction. I struggled with some of that stuff. So I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Goldman, because I was trying to figure out, is this a positive or a minus?
And on page 109, so for the general fund expenses, you see how they're all positive?
Well, let me ask my question.
Oh, sorry.
So can you bring up 109? I guess if we're all looking
on
at
the screen, I have it over here. How do I do that? Hold on, let me.
Or if my peers can see it.
Stop share. There we go. And then I could do this share here.
I was actually going to see, I think if you're sharing the screen, I can point to it, which will make it easier for people too, but you could probably, the laser pointer is helpful. Basically, the bottom line there, I'm looking at the ending fund balance for 2021 council, second column.
Mm-hmm. Is it shared, or I have the wrong one shared?
No, you've got it shared there.
Oh, perfect.
If I can touch this and mark on it or not.
Yeah, that's incorrect. This should be 105, 142, if that's what.
Okay, thank you, because that stood out to me. So, because that then carries up to the top, so that answers that.
Yep, and this should be 605,747 right here.
All right, thank you. And so let me go through these sequentially. The next page, which you may have just answered it, but it's 139 in our packet.
Okay.
Since I'm assuming you're going to be with us for a while, and I hope to be with us for a while too, tell me how you do this. Sorry, I'm scrolling. So I'm looking at the very top of page 139, general fund, beginning fund balance unassigned for council's budget 2021. We had 2,075,252 right there. Whoops, you just went past it, right? Yep, right above your hand.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Pointer. Can you pull up your laser pointer? That'll probably be easier for all of us too.
I don't think I can do it on a PDF. I think
Okay.
Microsoft PowerPoint handles it.
Okay, that's fine. It's just really handy. There we go. So then we have an ending fund balance right below that of, you said, well, that is the number there, 1,000,005.
Yes, yes.
But that's not a negative. You just put it in parentheses so I can better understand what you're doing because,
Oh, no, that's in this sheet, yeah, expenses are negatives. So that's the budgeted fund, that's the ending budgeted fund balance of 105,142.
and it becomes a negative because it's carried to the next year as a beginning fund balance?
No, it becomes a negative because there's an expense over here. See, revenues are positive and expenses are negative.
Why is the ending fund balance an expense?
Oh, that's just Washington state law. You have to put a beginning fund balance in, and then you have to put an ending fund balance in, or an estimate for it, based on the calculation. So that's just how it is. It just goes along with all the other expenses.
So the ending fund balance for 2022 is not a negative 605, it's a positive number.
Yeah, that's an actual expense. That's 605,747. And that's the budgeted fund balance number. What I was showing before, that slide with all the numbers and the 7 columns, that shows all the fund balance. This is a subset of that amount that's in that big slide that broke down all the fund balances.
So how about right below that, like streets 101, that 41,000, that's not in parentheses.
Yeah, that would mean that it's going into the negative, but that's only because, remember that slide that we talked about before that showed money increasing for that street specialist? That was a mistake. We do not need to increase money for the 4th street specialist. So that's actually going to come out of the budget. And this number then becomes negative, or an expense of like 80,000 or so. So this actually becomes good.
So I was very excited for this page because what I've said now, I think for the last 3 meetings, besides deciding what we fund, I'm trying to get my head around, we have this unrestricted fund balance, this extra cash that's not budgeted or restricted to reserves or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm worried in some of these cases if we are cannibalizing that. So our budget increases, plus we use up all of that. I'm just going to generically call it savings, unrestricted fund balance, ending fund balance, which becomes beginning fund balance next year. If we're using that up, and I was trying to get my head around it on this slide, I'm still not sure I'm there with that bigger picture of how much. Let me phrase it this way. I'm trying to see if there's a slide here that had this. Can you go to the slide, David, where it had, or Mr. Goldman, sorry, where it had, you said, hey, the ending fund balance for the general fund was only about $100,000 off. It's not as bad as it looked.
Okay, let me go to that one. Where is that?
So that was towards the end of your presentation, your PowerPoint.
Is it this one?
Yep.
All right, yeah. So this is all the fund balance. The number that you see on page 139 of your package, that's called the budgeted beginning fund balance and the budgeted ending fund balance. Remember back, I guess it was my 3rd day on the job, and Tally was making a presentation, and I guess Mike Bailey was making a presentation, and they were talking about like budgeted fund balance. And then the council was like, well, can someone clear this up? It doesn't make much sense. Maybe the new finance director. So that's why I came at the next meeting, and I was talking about the big picture of fund balance. Those numbers that you see here of budgeted fund balance, those are a subset of this unreserved amount. It's not the total unreserved amount, it's just a subset of that unreserved amount.
So if it's not too much, can we flip back to that slide then? We were just looking at the page,
139,
yeah, 139 in the packet.
I have to stop this one and then I have to
So it was probably me that brought that comment up.
share.
And I very much appreciate you being able to toggle back and forth like this because it makes it, I think, easier for us to follow. So when I look at the top of this, what concerned me originally is the original budget that we had, the mayor's budget 21, 22. We have that beginning fund balance of 2 million, and by the end of the biennium, it's a positive 26,000.
Mhm.
So that told me we were using almost $2 million of unrestricted fund balance. Is that a correct statement?
I'm trying to think. Yes, that's correct.
And now we've narrowed that down to using I'm going to round 1.4.
Correct.
So two thoughts come to mind. We're balancing a budget that's larger because we're having to use $1.4 million of unrestricted fund balance. And then do we have, if we go back to that other slide,
All right, stop. this
you're
share.
saying we still have
Share this one. Okay.
I don't understand how we use 1.4 and we still have hardly a difference of $100,000. Where,
Well,
how do we
here's the 1.4. You see,
Right.
you add that and that's the 1.4. And then this is remember you said 2 million? This is approximately 2 million, 2.1 million right here.
right? So if we're using 1.4 million, how is that bottom line only 100 and I'm rounding it?
Oh,
Not quite.
got it. Okay. So, over here for the amended budget for 2020, the amended budget was budgeted to use this amount, $1.256 million. But we did some projections recently, a couple weeks ago. We took a look at our revenues and we looked at our expenses, and based on trends, it looks like our revenues are going to come in a little bit better. Our expenses are going to come in a bit under budget, and it looks like when it's all said and done, and of course it's still a projection. We got to close the year and do all the stuff, but it looks like we're only going to use about 457,000 of fund balance. And that's basically just the difference between the expenditures and the revenues here. So what that does is it makes this number better by 800,000. Instead of going down to 2.6, it goes down to 3.4. So that makes that better. And then we have this one, which was using 2.1 million. You take this, you subtract out that, and you get down to 1.9, which that 25,000 on the other sheet is a part of. But there's more than just the 25,000. If you look at the total, all the fund balance, the unreserved fund balance, and then the cuts the reductions and all the changes that were done over the past couple of weeks, or actually past 3 or 4 weeks, that reduced expenses by whatever that is, 550 or so. And that actually brought up the unreserved fund balance at the end of 2020 to this level.
Okay.
There's a lot
So-
I'm sorry, it's,
No, but just, I appreciate it. And I don't want to get lost totally in the minutia unless, there's something that doesn't make sense. But just in concept, from a macro 30,000 foot view, what's been bothering me from the initial presentations was the thought that we are gobbling up a ton of fund balance just to balance the budget. And, then we talk about some of these ongoing costs like personnel or COLAs, that it just seems like it's completely unsustainable. Let me just look at my notes here really quick. Page 280, if you could, in our packet. I guess one other thing, I think this is probably a typo, but
280, okay.
280 in the packet.
And then I'm going to share the packet.
And while you're getting there, I just want to, I don't know if it's Jessica or whom, but the capital 6-year project, that section, pages 140 through whatever, that whole section, very well done. I've always appreciated how that is presented. So staff, whomever's responsible, keep up the good work there. So on 280, just that anomaly right there, the 2020 budget where it shifts from, we have overtime and personnel benefits kind of swapping right there where your hand is.
Yeah.
Could you explain that?
Well, the budget was put together back in 2018, and that number was inadvertently put in the budget. There's no overtime. That number should be in personnel benefits.
I mean, the numbers look very similar. I think they just got swapped somehow.
They got swapped. Yeah, I believe so. I wasn't, around in 2018, but I believe that's what happened. So what we're going to do at the next meeting, we're going to have an end of year budget amendment, and we're going to fix that. We're just going to, make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Sure.
My comments on the 4 things I think that you asked for, in no particular order, it's just how I wrote them down. Park specialist, Mr. Councilmember Wiesner, you summed it up fairly well. When I look at Windjammer and all of this that we've invested in down there, I'm really hesitant, pardon the pun, but to let that stuff go to seed. I want it well taken care of as we develop Harbor Heights or whatever the end name is. There's going to need to be some money dedicated to keeping these parks up for all of the city to enjoy. And so if it's not now, it needs to be in the fairly near future. And maybe that is filling in some of that gap in 2021 with this, a little more seasonal labor, so we don't incur the long-term costs of that body just yet, or that position and some of those benefits. So I think that was well said by Councilmember Wiesner. But I definitely want to keep this in focus, because I don't want to see, if we do phase 2 down there, we start to develop Harbor Heights. I want to keep that level of service up for the general public. Council travel, yeah, that could probably be tuned up some. We've reduced, especially the out-of-state travel in the past. Could probably be tightened up. I know there's somewhere in there I had some travel. I know we get our travel report, and I think this year, I'm trying to remember, it was myself and Councilmember Heisen. I don't know if those numbers are completely accurate, so maybe that just needs to be reported a little more accurately. COLA, this is a big one. Mr. Wiesner made an interesting point that I think last time we did, I don't remember if it was one. Do you know, Mr. Goldman, what the last COLA was in the last budget?
Not offhand. I remember.
I can tell you, David.
I got something from him.
David, can you hear me? It was 2.25 both years.
Okay, so that sounds right. Thank you, Mr. Oborn. So, that's when you look at these numbers, and I'm going to round here, but $750 to $1 million over a biennial budget. If you did a 2 or a 2.5, I'm just throwing out some numbers. That's a significant expense to carry, and so I would like to, at this point, it's not that the employees aren't doing a good job, but just to be as solvent as possible. I have a hard time endorsing a COLA right now until we see what 2021 really brings. And there may be a way to go back and do something retroactively. So that's just very straightforward. And then permitting software, that too, it's a one-time expense that I would like to try and figure out how to get in here, because to me it's economic development in a roundabout way, that if we can provide better service to the public, move this stuff through quicker. Obviously, Mr. Cool will be watching your department and making sure that if we do, or we're able to approve something like this, that it's being utilized well. But that would be my thoughts on those 4 topics that you asked about, Mr. Goldman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Servadius. We'll move then to Mayor Pro Tem Munns.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad Mr. Goldman was trying to clear up the council page. It bothered me that numbers had been inverted, and it still doesn't explain where that 3,700 goes. Because if we haven't trued up the 2020 budget, and if it was 0 for overtime, I would think it would still be 0 for overtime. So I don't know where this 3,700 number goes. It's pretty logical that the 62,207 goes down for the benefits, but I don't know where that 3,700 goes. Whatever. So I'm glad to see that would be true up. I had some questions on the center. it bothered me that on the senior center, that their actual expenses for, let's see, 2019, they were budgeted the 3.7, I don't know if you can find that or not. I'm sorry, I had that page out and I just wrote notes. I believe I sent you a question about that. Mr. Goldman?
I've been on mute. I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to find where, so where is that? I think it's.
Okay, on the council, oh yeah, okay, you got that. The center one.
I gotta go down to Fund 129. That's it, okay.
All right, so it bothered me that when they trued up 2019, that the revenue was 362,849, but yet they ended up spending 473,747. So in reality, they overspent by 110,898, which is like 30% over. And so I believe you said they covered it by using.
They had fund balance. They have fund balance in 2019, and that was used to cover this cost.
Okay. I guess it just surprised me that they went that far over and then had to go back and in a sense use 110,386. It just, I don't know. I don't know who's managing that department. It just seems, in other businesses, that person would be fired or demoted. I mean, you don't just go over your budget unless there's some plan or something. And I guess I don't remember council approving that, but maybe we did, and my brain has just farted on that. On the COLAs, I have a question to Mr. Grant Weed. We did the resolution, but I know unions, you can go back and retroactively pay. I don't know if you legally can with non-reps. And I want to be sure that that can stay the same, or we have to do something else.
Yeah, that's an excellent question to distinguish between those two items. For the represented bargaining units, you can negotiate retroactive increases through that process. That's not true with the non-represented. And so I think part of the intent in passing the resolution that the council previously passed was to at least have the ability through creating kind of a placeholder to be able to apply retroactive increases to the non-represented. So that opens the door for you to be able to do that, subject to there being available revenues to do it during the first or second quarter of 2021. Well, one option, I wanted to probably pose the question to Mr. Goldman too. One option that council could consider, if it does not approve a COLA for non-represented, to be able to direct the staff to review revenues at a certain point in time next year and bring back to council a possible budget amendment to be able to designate a COLA that could be applied retroactively to non-represented if revenues are available to do so.
Yeah, we can definitely take a look at how revenues are doing around mid-year and bring that back to the council for their consideration.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure we were clear on this, because sometimes there's little glitches and you miss that glitch and then you can't do what you said you were going to do. And I agree with my other council members and what Councilman Wassinger had said, that it's all or none. I think at this point I would be nervous and would do none. And then when we get first or second quarter numbers to really know where we're standing with the new regulations for COVA until December 14th. And if you believe what you read, it sounds like we could go into even more restrictions till after the January 1st. So it just needs to be fair. Everybody needs to be fair on that. On the park, I guess it's 129,746, if I added it correctly, to get the park specialists. And we've been down since 2010. And like they said, we've added more and more land. And that is probably one of the best assets we have for this community. When people see the green and the trees and the parks they can go to. And with this COVID, there's certainly more people I've seen in wintertime down at Windjammer or even at the park by the marina than I have seen in years before. So, and if it goes to seed or to waste, it takes too much money and even more physical labor to bring it back. So if there's some way we can, we've got to protect our assets. I mean, we worked so hard to be sure we didn't take up all the green space in the park with the clean water facility. So I would really like to see that. And on the development services, is that 100,000? Is that a 1 year? 2021 getting the software, or is it 2 years, 100,000 then another 100,000?
That's just 1 year, 100,000.
Okay, so we'd get it, and the program that they want that would really help permitting that Councilman Wiesner and you have used in other cities, it will fit with whatever we get into finance and some of the other departments, so they can all talk to each other, correct?
We don't know at this time. We need to kind of take a look at what other cities around this area are doing, in the Puget Sound area, what they're doing for permitting and how that software ties into their overall accounting system and, water utility billing system and so on. They call it an enterprise resource planning or an ERP system.
Mm-hmm.
So we just want to ask around and do a little research and then bring that back to the council bring that back to staff to make sure that all their needs are included in whatever software is out there. And then we'd have a better understanding of what's out there and what the price is going to be. And then we can bring that back to council with options for them to consider.
So this is just a good, we feel like solid estimate for development services. It's part of our economic development. I mean, everyone has said that if you can't get your permitting done, then people won't want to build here. And that has happened, or at least I've gotten a lot of complaints through the last, probably more so in the last 3 years than other. And I know the mayor's gotten a lot of comments about that too, and he would like to have those gone. So I would definitely like to see that for them. And let's see, Council Park, COLA. Oh, and on council, I think Councilman Wiesner had a good idea about what actually we have been spending. I know I was part of the AWC board, so my most of my things, it was just incidental kind of stuff, the 396, but my registration and room were paid for. And I'm not on that anymore, but I definitely want to see Councilman Goebel be able to go, because all of us have had chances to go once or twice or even more than that. And I think it's important for a brand new member to really jump in there and have her go to things. But I would be willing personally to give up my next 2 years travel in state and out of state. So in order to help get us over this hump, to get our new parks person, to get the software we need, and hopefully next year when the numbers come in, also be able to do some sort of COLA. So, but I'll wait for further discussion to add my 2 bits again. Thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem Munns, this is Liz Lang with Senior Services. If I could have a minute, I didn't jump on quick enough to make the comment in response to your comments about Senior Services, but I'd like to take a minute right now to just clarify In the 2019 budget, the beginning fund balance was 113,000, and that's part of what is our budget. And so that, in fact, is there wasn't 113,000 discrepancy. That was part of our beginning fund balance. And I think if I do a screen share, it might kind of our revenue and expenditure by fund might kind of help clarify, and I'd be willing to do that. And I'm sorry, my web camera's being a little glitchy, it looks like. So let's see here. All right. Do you see my screen? And is it 2019 budget here? So this is what our budget is, and you'll see beginning fund balance as unassigned is that number that you were referring to. So it's what's planned as part of our revenue in our budget. So when you look down at the ending and you see that difference, that is the difference that was budgeted in as part of our revenue spending. So it's not that we overspent by that much. It was the budgeted, the beginning fund balance. And I think this goes all back to that, the conversation and explanation of what a beginning fund balance and ending fund balance is. So hopefully that answers your questions. And I want you to know, if you ever see something like that and have questions or concerns about the way the department is being ran, I'm always here. I would love to have conversations with you about that anytime.
Thank you.
Oh, I just want to clarify one thing on the city council budget. There was a bunch of lines for travel, and those are specifically designated for travel expenses, but there's one line for miscellaneous, and in miscellaneous, that's where their registration expenses go. They don't go into travel, but they go into that, that miscellaneous line. And the actual expenses for, the registrations in 2019 were $1,200, and in 20, it looks like it's going to be just under $2,000. So just to clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We'll go to Councilor Mack at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd like to put a thank you out there to Mr. Goldman and all of the staff. Mr. Goldman, appreciate the way you lined it out. Pretty straightforward. Lots of numbers out there, that's for sure. So kind of going over a few of these things on the development services for their software. Yes, I am concerned, as Mayor Pro Tem put it. I will support this new software 100%, but I am concerned that we don't get something and it's not compatible for what we do in the future with any other, like our finance department and that type of thing. So that's important, but I do support that. I think it's needed. And I hope, in my opinion, that we can see some development. There are some things taking place. And once we get through this, I think 2021, 22, and in the future, we'll start to see some good projects up within our city, getting the revenues going, that type of thing. So, like I said, it's a good thing, and I'm sure Mr. Cool will make it work to the best of his ability to whatever you guys choose. On the seasonal park specialist, I'm just, with the way things are, I'm concerned about revenues. Yes, we've got some beautiful parks. I've got one less than 100 yards away, and it is nice to see it groomed. However, I'd really like to see if we can't make it through the next 2 to 3 quarters here in 21, and see if we can't do some fill-in a little bit. I would prefer to get through 21 and possibly put on a new park specialist in 22. See if we can't limp along in 21. I know we've got a lot of projects out there, as other council members mentioned. I'm kind of being on the cautious side. As I said, revenues are down. And yes, we need to maintain these parks, and especially if we start expanding. But if we can sort of squeak through 21 and put it on in 22 when hopefully we'll be back to normal. Just put it out there a little ways. So that's the way my feeling is on that. On the council travel and that type of thing, I'm okay. I could give up my in-state, out-of-state, that type of thing. We could possibly have some new council members next year, and possibly good to have those new council members, including Council Member Goebel, for some up-to-date educational things. So, as I said, I can give that up. On the COLA, it's tough. It's a tough times. You know, we don't know if our restrictions are going to get more drastic or if they're going to get loosened up here. Where our revenues are down, we do have a lot of unemployed people locally, and at the same time, I know that a lot of our employees, we got some talented people in the city. They're doing a great job. They're good employees. We want to keep all those employees. I'm thrilled that we can continue to keep all of the employees and pay them benefits. They will continue to keep their employment and their benefits next year. In my opinion, I think we should wait and look at things, revisit it as far out as the third and fourth quarter of next year. That's when you're going to get a better handle on what just happened the first of 21. Then at that time, as council members mentioned, we can go back and revisit this and then take a bigger picture. Where have we been? Where are we at? And where do we think we can go with some restrictions or no restrictions at all? So at this time, I would prefer to just postpone any COLA until at least the third quarter of 21. And I think that's about covers it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mack. Councilor Goebel.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start with the tough one first, with the COLAs. So I just want to say thank you to all of the city staff right now. I know this has been kind of an unprecedented year, and I appreciate all of your hard work and your ability to adapt to these changing times, and especially the group that's helping with the CARES funding. I want you to know that your efforts are noticed. But I definitely agree a lot with what Councilmember Wassinger said initially. It's a tough time. We don't know the long-standing effects of this. You know, you can project revenue may look good, but you have no idea. And so I think it would be conservative of the council to consider looking at doing a COLA adjustment in the second quarter once we kind of get a feel for what the world is going to look like in 2021. Potentially there's going to be a vaccine and then everything will go back to normal, or maybe it won't be improved and cases will continue to rise. So I'm just feeling a little hesitant on saying yes, but I do really feel that it's important to consider that because of all the hard work that everyone has put in, also being adaptive to the change. So that's where I stand there. With the parks specialist position, I agree with council member. Everyone's kind of said relatively the same thing. We've invested a lot of money into the parks, and I think it would be a detriment if we didn't continue to invest in personnel to support those parks. It'd be a waste. I am, hesitant because I'm hesitant to say yes, fill that position right now, because we also don't know what the world is going to be like. But I like what Councilmember Wiesner had mentioned, potentially beefing up, seasonal labor this summer of 2021 as we start developing Harbor Heights and maintaining all of our existing parks. And then maybe we look in 2022 for a budget adjustment to add or fill that vacancy. But I do think it's very important for this to continue being a part of the conversation and trying to find ways to support that group that is maintaining the parks. The new permitting software, it's a one-time purchase, so I'm very in support of this. It is, in a way, a roundabout way of doing economic development. I just wanted to clarify that it says it's going to be $100,000. Is there a possibility that it could go way over that, or do they think like that's kind of a general price of permitting softwares?
David Cool has done some research into the different packages that are out there. He hasn't done research onto the kind of complete ERP type packages, but he has some ideas that if you're willing to hear him out, he'd be willing to share some of those ideas with you right now.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's opposed, I think it'd be nice. I'm just like, hopefully they wouldn't fall in love with something and be like, oh, it's going to be $300,000. And yeah, so if he wants to talk, that'd be great.
Thank you. I've done some research on permitting systems over the years, and you can buy one for around $100,000. You can spend $500,000, you can spend $750,000 on permitting systems. But I think for $100,000, you can get a very high quality permitting system that can last you a very long time job for you. One thing you want to think about, though, is maintenance of a permitting system, and that's an ongoing cost you might have every year. You might want to think about $15,000 per year to maintain a permitting system. What we're trying to factor in here is the possibility that the staff's doing a great job. They're doing a fantastic job of customer service. But what the permitting system will do is it'll make them better. It'll also provide a better job of customer service so that the customers online can get better customer service. As Councilman Wiesner mentioned, you can go online and get better customer service just by being able to find out where a permit is. Instead of having to call the city and have us track it down through a spreadsheet, you can simply go online and find the information you need right away and not have to spend time tracking it down. So there's a lot of benefits to it, and we think that this is going to give us a real leg up and help us to compete with other cities as well. So clearly this is going to be a benefit to all of us.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good to hear that you think you can get a really good system for $100,000, so you're not going to be, surprised and asked to pay a whole lot more than that. And then the last thing is council travel. Thank you, Councilmember McInmines. I appreciate you both willing to sacrifice your own in-state and out-of-state travel for me potentially being able to attend a conference. I would be extremely grateful for that opportunity if we are able. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I think that kind of covers the options. So thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Councillor Goebel. We'll go to Councillor Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, I will wait in here. Oh, and also, like Councilmember Goebel, I want to echo my gratitude for staff. Mr. Goldman, I'm so impressed. If I didn't know that you were a recent addition to staff, I would think that you'd been here for years. Your grasp of all of the things is really impressive. And I think that reflects, well, not just on you, but on the staff in the finance department, who I'm sure did a lot of work to bring you up to speed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And staff outside of finance too helped a lot.
I think that it shows. It shows. I can tell that everybody's really on the ball, and everyone is just rolled with 2020 in a way that has not ceased to impress me. So thank you. And so in terms of my vote for the budget, yes, obviously city council travel will be reduced because we're not going to be traveling and going to conferences during a pandemic. So by default, that will go down. But I do agree that we can certainly make cuts beyond that. I agree with Councilmember Mack about the parks specialist. I don't see a lot of big events happening this summer. I think that's really maybe I'm not optimistic enough to think that we're going to have a bunch of big events this summer, but I would be interested in adding a park specialist in 2021, but I just don't see that as a justifiable expense for, in 2022, but I don't see that happening this coming year. What else was there? Permitting software, yes, obviously. What else did we have? The COLA, I liked your idea of visiting that mid-year. Since we have reserved the right to retroactively enact that, I would like to revisit that, yeah, maybe mid-year. I mean, sooner than later. Once we kind of have a handle on revenue, we can look at that. I wouldn't want to put it off we can examine mid-year and then decide what we want to do, but I would like to see the numbers by then. I don't want to make, staff wait too long wondering if that's going to happen or not. And did I miss anything?
That's pretty much covers it.
Did that cover it? Okay, cool. That's my vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Eisen.
All right, so to recap, what I'm hearing is, so we'll hold off on the parks specialist until 2022.
Hey, Dave.
We'll add this into
Hey,
the
Dave.
budget.
Dave, could I?
Sorry, someone else.
Yeah, we've got two more council. Yeah, let's
Sorry,
do
my
that.
bad.
Let's do that. That's all right. Councilor Wassinger?
Oh, thank you. Yes, Mr. Goldman, yes, you were going in the right direction. I agree with my fellow council members and where you were headed with that, with all of our ideas. I just wanted to say that because I didn't get to finish before, just because I wanted to hear other thoughts. But I concur with everyone, and you were going on the right track. And I guess my question would be, once you make these adjustments, you're going to come back and give us another sort of final draft to approve, or are you going to do that on the fly right now? And just maybe after you adjust for these items that we're going over, I guess what would be the next steps? That would be my question when everyone else is finished. But thank you so much.
Okay, I could answer that or wait for the next council member.
I think we still have a hand up from Mayor Pro Tem Munns.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me get my hand down. I was curious on page, Mr. Goldman, on page 262, it's general fund budget reductions from the November 17th meeting.
All right, let me get that up. Share screen. PDF. Right? Nope. There it is. All right, 262 was it?
Yes, sir. It has general fund budget reductions. That's it.
Yeah.
I was curious. Every department's been asked to do sacrifices, and you asked for a certain percent, and some were able to do a little more, and some right on the up. But for development services, in 2021, operating expenses, they offered $10,750. But then in 2022, it's $36,250. So I'm kind of asking, what are they giving up in their operating expenses? I mean, that's kind of, generally it's kind of half and half, and
Yeah, I think
$26,000 difference. So if Mr. Cool could answer that, I'd appreciate it, or give some kind of indication.
Yes, I can. A lot of what we cut training, we cut professional memberships, and a lot of what we cut were professional services, where we hired contractors to come in and help with certain studies we need to have done. That's the basic fund where we hire the hearing examiner from. So we kept $10,000 in each year for the hearing examiner. And one of the years we kept enough money for the housing study for professional services, but the other year we do not have money for professional services. So we had to cut somewhere, and that's where we cut.
Okay, I know for APA, or there's some initials, at least for the department head of development services, that you kind of need to keep up to be a member in order to like keep your accreditation. So that's not being cut, is it? You were saying you were giving up some of the national memberships?
We cut the total amount that we have for memberships. So we kept $3,000 in the first year for memberships. We cut it to $2,000 for the next year. So we just kind of have to hope that maybe there'll be money available in future years and hope for a budget adjustment later. We needed to get to our 2% figure this year. So we cut the number and hope of getting a budget adjustment maybe later. And if we have to give something up, then we'll give something up, like a membership or two, and we'll just make do.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that very much. And then Mr. Oburn, operating expenses, you're giving up 6,021. I guess nothing in 2022, but professional service, 8850. What professional services? I'm just curious.
That's the component that's economic development.
Ah, okay.
And then also in the supplemental, I added another 3,000, I think, in the additional cuts in
Right.
2022.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I know people are giving up. I was kind of wondering, okay, well, are they putting themselves into jeopardy or, what's the deal? Just kind of trying to see what kind of cuts. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Okay, I think we're back to Dave. Perhaps you could answer Councilor Wassinger's question about where we go from here this evening, or?
Sure, absolutely. I talked to Attorney Grant Weed beforehand about different options that might be available for tonight. One of the options that came up was that we could approve the budget tonight with conditions. So we can prove it with the condition of, we add the permitting software and that we reduce some travel for the city council. And also we'd have to make that streets adjustment that I talked about before that we added that we shouldn't have added. So that adjustment will have to happen too. But it all depends on what the council wants, whatever the will of the council is. So, and Grant could also weigh in if need be, so.
Yeah, I just would add that if the council would like to get to the point where it could adopt the budget tonight, we would just need to place on the record for what changes you're making that were not included in the budget as presented, mainly just addressing those 5 items that Mr. Goldman presented as options. And if you wish to do that tonight, I think I can help you to frame a possible motion to adopt the budget subject to those changes. On the other hand, if you'd like to take one final look at it, the finance department can bring back a fully revised budget ordinance, plugging in the numbers that would change as a result of those options either being included or not included, and you could adopt the budget at your next meeting.
So I think we've got Councilor Servadius.
Thank you. My 2 cents would just be to have it correct when we approve it. I always get a little leery when we're making a whole bunch or several amendments, maybe not a whole bunch, but several amendments. I would just prefer it's nice and clean and correct. Thank you.
Councilor Wassinger?
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. I would much rather not approve a budget that's not complete in writing with what we would like. So I certainly would not even consider that. I would rather wait and have it on paper and see what the final results are to our unrestricted balance when we add and subtract some of these things. And also just like one final thought that maybe finance director could help me with. So with this unrestricted or unreserved fund balance is basically a good gauge to me, and maybe I'm off by this, but it's a good gauge to me of sort of how our expenditures are going in regards to our revenues. And in this good slide that you just pulled up, thank you so much. I was going to get to that. I really appreciate this slide, but it still shows, even with our projected 2020 being a little better at the 3.4 and our proposed 2022 being a little bit better, with the cuts at the 2.5, that's still, we're still under $1 million, sort of that it's gone down. And that's a little concerning to me. That's a big percentage of $3 million, if you will, or about that. And could you tell me, and it's okay if you can't do it right now, you can email me, I can email you this week. I'd kind of like to know what our final unreserved general fund balance was sort of at the end of, let's say, 2016, 2018, just to sort of see where we've been going.
I have that.
Oh, hey, yeah, thank you.
Let me get that out. I think I could pull that up. How do I get out of this? Come on. Okay, might take a minute. I got to figure out what presentation it was on. It was on this one, right?
And I guess my concern is that I agree with everyone. Like you talk about this park specialist. It's something, parks are so important to me, and my demographic, if you will, with the kids and using the parks a lot. And I mean, I know everybody does, all walks of life. They're so important. And like everyone said, to maintain them, it's just really something that is needed. And I know there's other things that are needed. I know the fire department needs a lot of things, but it just concerns me to see this gauge of sort of how our general fund is bringing revenues in and spending, that I just want to get a feel for the trend of what we're doing and what we can commit to when we talk about these things, just generally.
Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay. So to confuse it even more, we went back to 2010 and looked at the comprehensive, the annual financial report that we do every year. And that combines the general funds, but also all the other sub-general funds like concessions and the marathon and all those small funds too, and also the reserve fund. So these numbers here are going to look slightly different than the numbers on that other slide. But that being said, everything's apples to apples now. So, and of course, these numbers here for 21 and 22 are before the cuts. This is because I put this slide together for a council question from 3 weeks ago. So you can see that like for example, for 2010, the budgeted use of fund balance was like 51,000. They actually used more than 51,000 in that year. However, in 2011, they were looking to use 224, but they actually didn't use any, and they gained over $1 million to add to the fund balance. And the same holds true in 2012. They were going to use some, but they didn't, and they added. We're going to use some, but they added. That kind of, here they were going to gain, but they actually gained more. 16, they were going to use some, but they added. There was a tax accrual adjustment too. There's a note, so that's one of the reasons. 17, they were going to use 319, but they used 213. In 18, they were going to use a lot, but they ended up adding. And then 19, that's the year when the capital fund was created separate from the general fund. Before that year, all the capital projects were in Fund 001, which is the general fund. This year, it was split up into like a sub fund. So you'll see that they were going to use 1.3, but they added 1.8. But a lot of that is for a capital project that they put in the budget in 2019, but they ended up carrying it forward. I believe that was for the Harbor Heights Park and also the Sleeper Road proceeds. So in the current year, the projected use of fund balance. Oh, we don't have this. Oh, this is projected. So if you include that amount that was kind of carried forward in Fund 007, because remember, this includes that capital project where the funds were carried forward. The budgeted for everything was 1.25, but actually it's going to be 1.566. But most of that is for that capital project. And the ending fund balance for all these funds is 10.3 million. And then for 21 and 22, we don't have an actual yet. So we just kind of use what was in that previous slide to get to this number. So you can see over the years, if you look in the bottom line, it grew over time, some years faster than others. And then
But what I see here that's like a little bit concerning is, yeah, it looks like, starting back in 2010, we projected budgeted use of, it looks like it never got over a little more than 200,000. And then it's like in 2018, it just exploded. Like we're projecting to use 1.5, 1.3, 1.2. Now, why is that? Do you know? I mean, I know you haven't been around, but
part of that could have been a capital project, because now I'm looking at all the general fund, not just the general fund's operating, departmental costs, but I'm looking at the capital project funds as well, because I wanted to make sure it was apples to apples going back, for 10 years.
And I know that these numbers include our restricted, like you said, policy numbers.
Yes.
That we have to use. So, okay, it'll just be interesting, going forward. It's, it's just something to think about for me, I guess. But I appreciate this slide. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wassinger. We will go to Councillor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would much rather see a clean budget brought back to next meeting, and rather than to mess through a bunch of adjustments to the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll go to Mayor Pro Tem Munns.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of comments. I want to tell the Finance Department and David Goldman that I really appreciate him getting the new spreadsheets out to us before the holiday, because we have several council members that are full-time employees and they just don't have the time. They've got to fit it in. And so I appreciate as soon as you can get out the adjustments as soon as possible would be really great. And thank you for doing it last time. I don't want to drop the conversation we need to start in January to talk about the fire department and how, there are, our safety too. And we need to be sure that they have their equipment also. But unfortunately, they cost a whole lot more than some other things. And I think that's it. I lost a note, but that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council. Dave, do you have any final questions for?
Well, I want to bring back something the council wants, will end up being able to approve. So maybe we could make a suggestion on travel, or I don't know if that's premature or not. I could bring that slide up again, and let's see here. So I'll share it. What is that share? Where's that? This one? So in 21, everybody has $1,200. What we could do is we can cut it all in half, and then if somebody ends up wanting to travel in 21, we can just do a transfer between one line to the other line for that person if needed, if it ends up being over $600. That's an idea. We can also look at miscellaneous. Also, this this one here, this DC trip, we can look at reducing. It's you know, I just want to be able to bring back something in 2 weeks that's clean and complete. So
Just FYI, since I'm on the DC trip in most years, I don't believe that we'll be needing to go in 2021. I'm not sure about 2022, but for what that's worth, as far as the Pentagon goes. But let's go to council. We have Councilor Servadius.
Do you know, Mr. Goldman, the $6,600 is already the reduction that council kicked in? Where did that come from?
Tally probably has that. We could closer look. Let me see if I can find it. I know she's on the call too. She could chime in as well. So let me just see if I can.
Give me a moment to look that up, okay?
Yeah, no problem. I'm looking it up.
So I agree. I don't picture any. There may not even be any out of state this year. I don't know what they'll do as far as the National League of Cities and a Pentagon trip. National League of Cities may not even occur. So the question would be whether or not the Pentagon trip goes down or not. And I agree, in-state travel could probably be halved. And if there's something that comes up that any one of us wanted to attend, then we could just ask our peers if, you know, there's budget there, then we can move it around. I don't know if this makes a huge dent in it. You free up whatever that is, $7,200 or something. If we cut those in half. So, but it is something. And like I said, if we've already done the 6,600, I know traditionally, I think there is leftover travel dollars here that just fall back into the general fund. I had one other thought too, before I shift off, and I'm trying to remember what it was. I'll probably have to come back to it. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Wassinger?
Yes, I would agree with the travel, with the in-state for sure. I think cutting it in half would be appropriate. You know, for me, if it's an Olympia and AWC, some meetings I can go to, I would suggest that Millie Go and any other new council members for sure should have priority for those because they're so important. And, you know, as we've all said that have been there, such a great tool to have for those in-state, but I'm willing to not go for new council members to go, certainly. So I think cutting in half, and then if we could, like you said, if it doesn't work out perfectly that way for those people, just transferring it if that's possible, I think that would be great. I'm not sure about the DC trip. I don't see that really happening in 2021, maybe 2022. I think it's worthwhile to go, to send at least, maybe send two, the mayor and one council member, or keep it with the two council members. But it is worthwhile trip for sure. But I don't see it really happening in 2021. I'm maybe being pessimistic, but yeah, I support cutting in half the in-state travel. Thank you.
Well, and Jay, I could answer that question that came up earlier about what was cut. All right, so what was cut was $2,100 from miscellaneous and $4,500 from the DC trip.
Okay, so that number's not on the 2021. The DC trip is 45, 0, right? For 2021.
Okay, so that's 45 is going to go to 0. Okay. Put that down.
I think that is.
Okay, 4,500. All right. Well, if that's all.
I've got Mayor Pro Tem, and it looks like a couple more hands here. So, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I think dividing the in-state travel in half, but I've had a lot of years. I think the newer members need to go for sure, and I don't mind. Yeah, I'll be the first to raise my hand to give up my $600 for that, for sure. And the DC, I don't think that's happening at all. So thank you, Mayor. Yeah, taking it off. And we'll just have to see for the other. So I think that would be good enough for the next meeting to be able to approve as far as the council budget. I can't see any other adjustments unless one of my fellow peers does.
Okay, not seeing any other hands, so I guess we've got what we need, Dave, right?
Yep, thank you, everybody, for your direction.
Thank you. Then that concludes, or do we just move this to our next meeting?
Oh, that's a question for Grant, I think.
Yeah,
Mayor, don't you need to close the public meeting tonight?
that's what we're talking to Grant, that's what we're talking to Grant about right now.
All right, thank
Yes.
you.
You have had the second now of 2 public hearings as are required, so you can close your public hearing. You wouldn't be required to hold another public hearing or to continue this one, simply to adopt the 2021-2022 budget ordinance. So procedurally, I think the best thing to do would be to close your public hearing. I think you've already confirmed that there was no public comment, and then you can schedule for your next council meeting adoption of budget ordinance 1917.
Okay, so that'll be our next meeting on December 15th. But for now, seeing no other business on this item, the public hearing is closed. And we will, I don't see any other hands up, so we will move on in our agenda to our next item, which is 9A, WCIA property rate deductible options. And we have David Goldman, Finance Director, up again. Dave?
All right,
Welcome back.
Let me get to that item. All right, here it is. Okay, so the recommended action for tonight, I don't have a presentation because I went over all the numbers last time, but the recommended action for tonight would be to, following the council's direction 2 weeks ago, would be to adopt the $25,000 deductible option with the Washington City's Insurance Authority for all city properties, including the clean water facility. The administration had, directed us to pursue other options for the clean water facility, but there's some timing issues with that. The WCIA informed us that they'll need to know by December 11th whether or not we're going to keep the clean water facility in. And city staff, we've received feedback from our broker that they're just not going to be able to get us an answer by this meeting, where a decision has to be made before December 11th. So the recommendation would be to just put everything in with a $25,000 deductible, but direct staff to diligently look next year for options to see if we can get the clean water facility out of the WCIA, or see if it's cheaper to do it outside of the WCIA or not, and bring that back to council as to the option, whether it's cost effective or not cost effective. But once we do the renewal for 2021 with all the properties, we can't really take out the clean water facility in 2021. It'll have to be in 2022 when we would first be able to take it out. So that's all I have for this item. If there's any questions or discussion, we're available to answer your questions.
Okay, I see a hand from Councilor Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to staff for looking into this. We've discussed it ad nauseum. So it makes sense at this point to go ahead and move forward with the $25,000 option, and then see what we can learn, next year in terms of other options. But in light of no other options this evening, I would move to adopt the 25,000 deductible option with WCIA for all city properties, including the clean water facility.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Sorry.
We've got a motion and a second to adopt a $25,000 deductible option with WCIA for all city properties, including clean water facility. Motion is made by Councilor Heisen, second by Councilor Wassinger. Seeing no other input or questions, all in favor say aye. Raise your hand, I should say. And it looks like that passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, David. Nice job. Then we'll move on to our last item this evening, is 10A, which is Clean Water Facility Update. Got our Public Works Director, Kathy Rosen, and City Engineer Jim Bridges listed here. Kathy?
Brett Arvidsson is going to be jumping on to make this presentation.
Okay.
Let me see, I don't think he's on yet.
Yes, I am.
Okay, there you are.
Lisa, would you put my slides up, please? Well, good evening. This is talk about our current status of our clean water facility. Next slide, please. Next slide. Give background. Our clean water facility went into partial operation in November of 2018. Our dryer was partially operational September 2019, and the park was opened in 2019. While substantially complete, active construction actually continued into 2020. In the summer of 2019, we began work on the punch list and worked on that up to we considered it complete in September of 2020. Additionally, we had warranty items going on during that same period of time. Next slide, please. Warranty is up different punch list. Generally, warranty starts when the item is placed into beneficial operation. And there are exceptions because we did do staggered startups, so the warranty periods were different. The contractual warranty period is 1 year, though some items have extended warranties like roofs and that sort of thing. Most of our equipment items are now beyond the warranty period, but we do still have a couple of warranty items that we're still working on, but it's essentially complete. Next slide, please. Biosolids odor control. Our biosolids building has experienced odor problems with the drying operations. The odor control devices have been ordered, and we're actually expecting delivery next week. I checked on the delivery, and they're actually shipping tomorrow from the Midwest. Staff has begun preparations to install the units, and we are continuing working on improving the operation of the dryer units. Next slide, please. Membrane expansion. The council did approve the purchase of the additional membranes on October 20th, and the contract has been executed. We have been working with Suez to coordinate the installation of the new modules. We have gotten the fabrication drawing and working with them on the schedule. We have also gotten electrical equipment, so we're preparing an electrical bid to install the new wiring and controls. That'll be a small bid, so it won't be, it'll just be more of a quote type process. We're expecting installation in late January. We should be able to do it during the wet weather, but we'll have to be paying attention to winter weather. So we have a storm coming through, we'd have to halt for a day or so. But right now the schedule's looking like late January. Next slide, please. Lagoon cleaning, we haven't discussed this in the past, but we did want to bring it up. When we handed the lagoons back to the Navy in 2019, January, we retained the obligation to remove the biosolids from that, and we've been waiting to see what happens with the negotiations. Since we are not moving forward with that, we are preparing specifications for advertisement after the first year to clean the lagoons. Excuse me. The cleaning process will take place probably in the spring of 2021 if everything works right. We hire a contractor and it'll be dredging out the stalls out of the lagoons. Additionally, we'll be doing other contracts for the disposal of the units. The contract for the cleaning will just be cleaning and dewatering of the solids. These solids are not available for beneficial reuse, so they're going to have to be landfilled. So we'll have an additional contract with Iron County for that removal. Next slide, please. The contract closeout, completion of punch list only signifies completion of construction activities and monthly billings. We still are withholding retainage. The contract closeout is a long process involving L&I, Department of Revenue, and foreign liens and claims. The L&I process is pretty approaching completion. All the subcontractors have gotten closed out from what I understand. We're still waiting. Hoffman will be the final closeout. They can't do that till we're almost at the end. The next step involves final pay reconciliation, obtaining the final releases, which is still ongoing. We anticipate the administrative process.
Any council questions? Okay, it does not look like it. Councilor Wiesner has a question.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for that presentation, Brett. Kind of a related question, not to the presentation because that was so clear and concise, but follow up on our contract that we had with the Enviro Issues to brand and facilitate the marketing of our biosolids. Where are we at on that with the deliverables?
That's have been presented. I shipped them forward, so as far as I'm concerned, it's been completed. So, they're available for review.
So the creation of the one flyer that we received that's kind of complete is the completion of the contract that was $30,000 for Enviro Issues.
And that was just, the biosolids is just part of that. So we have other aspects that are ongoing, but most of those are on hold. So with the interpretive center being put on hold, I brought that project to completion. The biosolids were essentially done. And we do have a phase 2 project, but I'm not sure when we're going to restart that yet.
Well, so I guess I would like to understand the $30,000. I'd like to see where we're at as to what's been delivered on that contract and then what's left to be delivered on that contract.
We can get a summary of that, but right now, like I say, the interpretive center, we've brought that to conclusion. And like I say, the $32,000 was multiple items. The biosolids is just one part of it. So
Yeah,
I'd have to go back.
Follow up with an email over to me, with maybe
Sure.
that summary. I'd greatly appreciate that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Any other questions from council regarding that? Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate that. Any other council input or questions? Any other business? Okay. I want to, as we move forward, just say we're going to have one more meeting before we actually get to Christmas, but we're certainly on our way. Want to wish you a safe holiday upcoming season here. Please continue to wear your masks and distance, and we'll get through this. Oops, I see a hand here. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir. I hate to interrupt, but usually this is the meeting where the Boy Scout troop, I believe it's 59, presents a huge wreath. Is the city still going to get it and put it up there inside the little atrium part?
You know, it's nice that you asked. We have not heard one word from the Scouts this year. So I can reach out to somebody that I know is connected there. Would be happy to do that.
Thank you. That is just such a nice, long-standing tradition, and I think it lifts everybody's spirit. So I would appreciate it. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilor.
Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to let you know the wreath is coming. I'm currently working with the Scouts on that.
There you go. Okay.
Hey, hooray!
Yeah, thank you, Sabrina. Councilor Mack. Can you hear me out there, Councilor Mack? Huh? Has he got a hand up? Councilor Mack.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. One question. Yes, thank you, Mayor Severance, for bringing up the holidays, and I'm hoping everybody will feel safe and but still stay in the spirit. Are we still having a 16th workshop? Is that still on the schedule?
Thank you. Yes, it is, as a matter of fact.
Okay, and not a problem. Next thing is I would like to, I did not see the lights up on Beechma Park. Are those lights scheduled to go up on the trees and decorate that park in the near future?
So that is not a question I can immediately
That's probably not
answer.
your department, Mayor.
Well, I think it is, as a matter of fact, but I don't know that I can get you a very quick answer there. Is that
I understand.
Works?
I'm sure the city's working on it, and if we could get it up to boost everybody's spirit. They did a heck of a job last year, and it looked really nice. And so if we could talk to the people and get it going, that would be great. It's a great city center piece of property down there, and like I said, it looks great when it's all lit up. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. So I thought I saw another hand, but I don't see any more hands right now. Are we okay? Looks like I want to wish a safe holiday. Again, we're going to have a couple meetings before we get to Christmas. I want to thank you to council for a lot of hard work on these numbers. I want to give a special thanks to all of our staff for a really heck of a lot of work on their end. So thank you. It hasn't been easy to make cuts. It never is, but thank you for a lot of hard work and a lot of good information here. And seeing no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Looks like we've got hands going up like crazy. Thank you very much. Have a good one. We'll talk again soon.
Good seeing y'all.